Alright, time for a serious video. My buddy Greg Manarino texted me today. I was actually at work at the time. Looked down. Hey, I'm doing a video that's very important. It'll be done uploading soon. Please check it out. I said, that's a Big 10-4, good buddy. So I checked it out tonight. He's talking about a stock market crash that he thinks is imminent and it'll be coming soon. And soon could be many months out or sooner. He showed a nice little chart that showed the dot-com bubble. Then it showed the 2008 housing crisis nonsense, etc. And we're back up again. We're back up to the top of, kind of like before. If I can fix this slide a little better. There we go. And he talks about the war in Syria and how Russia has a base in Syria. So basically, us going into Syria or militarily helping the rebels in Syria is kind of like a slap in the face to Russia. It's almost like, we're about to start a war with Russia. If you've ever followed Gerald Celente, he always says this 1,000 times. When they ran out of cards, when they fudged all the numbers they can fudge, when the reality is finally at the doorstep, they can't do anything else. They can't hide it anymore. They take you to war. They take us to war. He's been saying it, and man, I've always followed old Gerald Celente, and he's been right about a lot of stuff he talks about. In this war that's coming, it's not going to be a little war. It's not just going to be us piddling around again. Let's go into Pakistan. Let's go into Afghanistan and just kind of like do nothing besides get oil contracts for the big oil companies. So Obama, just a matter of a day or two ago, announced that, as Greg said, we're literally looking heavily into financially backing militarily the rebels in Syria. It's the same thing we did in Libya. Now, I don't know if I know my subscribers for sure. I've heard me use the word Lindsey Williams many times. And whenever I seem to talk about Lindsey Williams and how he says such and such, I do get a bunch of shills that come in. Oh, Lindsey's a piece of garbage. He's nothing. He doesn't know anything. Let me tell you something. I've been following Lindsey Williams since I first stumbled upon his first video at the Granada Forum back in 2006 or 7. When he said the gas prices were fixing to go through the roof in the near future to $150 a barrel, mark his words, etc. Never heard of the guy. So I took that in. I got an open mind, sat back and watched. 2008 rolled around. April, May, June, July. Oh my God, gas prices were out of control. $150 a barrel gas. And while it's technically 147 at that time, while that happened, Lindsey Williams gets back out there on the radio shows on the internet and stuff and says, oh, guess what? I talked to my insider guy, that retired oil executive, the same guy that's always been giving me this information. He told me to go ahead and tell everybody the price of a barrel of oil. And he said, I know you turn on the news right now and all they're saying is it's going to 200, it's going to 200, there's no stopping it in sight. I know they've said this. But it's going down to $50 and below. I know. The radio host almost chuckled at him. People that called in chuckled and kind of, Lindsey, you're out of your mind. Even though Lindsey Williams has already given previous examples where the same damn thing happened and the same type of people would say the same things. You're out of your mind, you're crazy. So he foresaw that coming and said, don't you dare call me back later or get on the radio show and get on the air and ask me questions and say, Lindsey, are you a prophet? Lindsey, are you a psychic? I'm telling you now, I'm not. I know the insiders. And this is a retired oil executive that I know that tells me these things. So when I saw the gas prices go there, I decided I'm going to hang on to this guy and follow him whenever I can. And he's made some outlandish claims before. And they always happen, just like he said, because the guy who's pulling the strings, or the group, the club, the elite, whatever you want to call them, one of the guys knows him, likes him, they're friends, and told him. That guy has since died, by the way. And he does have one more source left who has been telling him things. I personally, you can look it up, have a video, October, I want to say it was around the 28th, Halloween or something, around that time frame of 2010, where I give a little synopsis of, hey, I just heard Lindsey Williams' new information. Here's what he said. He talked, and this was 2010, October, right towards November. There's going to be this little war thing, little uprising in the Middle East. And Alex Jones even asked him, well, are you talking about the war Iran? No. He said, no. I asked about that. He said, it is not time to go to war with Iran. This is not Iran. He then went on to talk about the countries in the order. And he'd come back on the air, by the way, just prior to that. Prior to the 4 and 5 months later that he said this would happen, these uprisings in the Middle East, and gave even more details. But he laid out the countries in which uprisings would take effect. The regime would be overthrown. It would be completely American-sponsored terrorism attacks, whatever you want to call it, in the Middle East, destabilizing the Middle East. And he listed in order. He said it's going to start with Egypt. Egypt was the first country that had this happen. Oh, the social media, Facebook played a role. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And by the way, sidetrack for a second. How did that work out for you, Egypt, now that you got your democracy? How's that working out for you? Last time I checked, it was pretty rough, brutal and rough. So he then went on to name a little bit of Yemen, and then he said Libya. And after Libya, he said would be Syria. So we have already gotten rid of Libya. After he already made the claim, by the way. This happened exactly as he said. He said we would be doing the same thing for Syria. Now, what I don't recall is if there was one more after Syria and then Saudi Arabia, or right after Syria, it's going to go to Saudi Arabia. But he said it was going to Saudi Arabia. This is all planned out. It's all here for a reason. And once it got to Saudi Arabia, that's when you would see oil prices again spike to at least $150 a barrel, potentially a lot more. And it's going to cause the collapse of America. The economy will collapse. They'll blame it on this whole thing, oil prices skyrocketing. We will have to default on our debt and or the bonds, revalue them, etc. It's one way or the other you want to look at it. We're devaluing the dollar. The Middle Eastern nations and other countries holding our debt would be absolutely freaking furious that we just devalued this cash, these bonds they've been holding on to all these years. And they're going to tell us we don't want to sell you any more oil. Go screw yourselves. And then shortly after that, you're going to hear breaking news in America. We found all the oil we need. It's just happened. We didn't know it was there. We just found it. America's independent on energy again, but you're not going to go down from, let's say it was $200 a barrel. It's not going down to $30 and $40 a barrel. No, it's going to stay around $100 a barrel. And he didn't give that number, but what he did say is you're going to see $6, $7, possibly even $8 at the gas pump. 6, 7, 8, like that. And when they're done with us, we'll be paying $4, around $4 a gallon at the gas pump. Thinking, oh, thank God we got our oil here in America. When in reality, we could have it for less than $1. In the oil, we've always had it since the 1970s. It was just hushed up. National security. Got to hush that up. Because, as he explains, we needed to get the world to buy our debt because we were ballooning the deficit out of control. By 1971, we had our first $1 trillion in debt as a country. It took 200 freaking years. And look where it's at today. 17 trillion. 30 years after 1971, roughly, so we'll call that 2001, right? Our debt was around 6, 7 trillion. Matter of fact, I think it was right around 6 trillion. In 30 years. It took us 200 years to get to 1 trillion. So you can see why we had a little problem. And the solution was to go to the Middle East. They sent Henry Kissinger over there. You can, again, Lindsey Williams gave the whole scoop. To tell the Middle East, we will take you out of third world status, create this entity called OPEC. You know, it's like the United Oil Association for Arabs, right? And we'll set you up with all the equipment. We'll get the drilling rigs. All you have to do is just give us the okay. You don't have to do anything. You'll come up third world status. You'll become first world status. Beautiful buildings. You'll take your whole society up. It's beautiful. Well, okay, so they said, what do you get out of it? You can only sell the oil to the world for U.S. dollars only. Go research that. See if that's a true fact or not. It is. OPEC cannot sell oil for anything other than US dollars. So how does the rest of the world get US dollars? They got to buy our debt. Got to get our debt. Got to have it to get those dollars. That's how this whole thing happened. So fast forward to now. As Greg Manarino said, we're fixing to go to war. We are going to war. There's no question. I did a video, I think it was March 16th, 2012. I almost thought it was 2011. I think it was 2012. Obama's executive order. If you want to look it up, JSNIP 4 executive order, and maybe put the date like March 2012 or something on YouTube. I read this thing. It took me almost an hour, I think, to read the damn thing. And what I got done reading, that executive order, again, this is March of 2012. How did they know we were going to war back then? How did they know Syria and Libya and all that? How did they know all that? Because it's already been planned. Always was planned. And in this executive order, it reads as if the government can take a facility that is privately owned, corporation, force money towards that facility to tell the owner, you're fixing to expand, you're fixing to help the government out, you're no longer selling canned pieces of metal over here of manufacturing, you are now going to be manufacturing bomb parts, bullets, kind of like back in the World Wars, that kind of thing. We have the authority. In this executive order, it gives every secretary, Secretary of State, Secretary of Treasury, all of the secretaries in the United States of America at the high level of government have the authority to give out a loan on a, just feel like it, here's a loan, backed by the government for this corporation because we are expanding business operations for that corporation for the greater good of America. And if you go on to read the rest of it, if you don't come out of there saying, this is a complete executive order about when we're going to war and how it's all going to go down and how America is going to be transformed internally when the war happens. That's what it basically left me with when I read it. Mainstream media, nothing. Anything on TV about this crazy executive order, not even a peep. But old JSNIP 4 covered it. And I would be willing to say right now, if I went and found the damn thing, there might be 2,000 views on it. 2,000 views. I need it to be like 5 million views, to tell you the truth. But whatever, people fixing to find out. So if you have a 401k, as Greg is saying, Greg Manarino, what do you do when you have a job and you call the payroll company or whoever's handling your 401k and say, I want out. I don't feel good right now. I know that I just have my gut instincts telling me to get out of the market. Sir, you still have a job. You're working for so-and-so? Yes, you can't get out. What do you mean I can't get out? I know the market's going to crash. I know it's coming soon. I got to get out. Can't get out. So what can you do? There is a term called sit on the sideline in cash. And if you call the person handling the 401k, and I'm not talking about the person in your HR department at your job. I'm talking about the company that handles the 401ks for your company. Yellow. My account, such as here's my name. Yeah, you got me? Okay. I understand I have X amount of dollars in my 401k. Yes, okay. I can't get out of it because I have a job, correct? That's correct. Okay. I need to sit on the sideline in cash. I need to take the money that's in that 401k. You still possess it. It's still in your control. Sit it out of the market in cash. That's what they call that. It's the only way that if the market gets destroyed, the amount of cash that has accumulated thus far doesn't get touched. It's still yours. At the same time, if we see Dow from 15,000 go to 18, 19, 20,000 Dow, you also don't get that benefit. It's been sitting on the sideline in cash. But as Greg said, do you want to risk and be greedy to find the absolute top and hope that you time it right, which most people won't because you're not in control. You're not one of the elite. They know when they're going to do it, and it's usually when you least expect it. So don't count on that. So if you want to be greedy, then go ahead and wait and see how high it goes. If you want to be smart, sit in the sideline in cash. It's the only thing that will save your money in a system that was designed from the very time it became a normal thing in America to have a 401k. It was designed back then to where you could never, ever, ever get out of it unless you completely lost your job and qualified for a hardship. And I'll be right up front with you. If you have any job, no matter how bad you're struggling, your wife just lost a job, your house is being foreclosed, you don't qualify. Sir or ma'am, you don't qualify to take this 401k out. It is extremely hard for someone who has a job to be able to get out of a 401k. Even if they had to take a new job and it's less pay, it's difficult. But it is very easy to make the phone call and say, sit me on the sidelines with cash. Put my amount in my 401k, 100% of it, on the sideline. It's the smartest thing that I would do if I had a 401k, but I don't have a 401k. I put all my money into silver, physical silver, in my possession at all times, or in my house, in my safe, etc. Thanking JP Morgan and friends right now and the bankers for lowering the price of gold and silver so that I could buy more cheaper. Because after all this goes down, guess what's going to skyrocket in price? Gold and silver. How do I know for sure? Because history says so. At the same time, guess who else said so? Lindsey Williams, the guy who hasn't missed anything. And he said that the prices that they want silver to be at, when they finally have all the control of it, assuming they have control of it, is they want silver to be between $75 and $100 an ounce. They want gold to be around $3,000. That's if they maintain the entire control the whole time. If they don't maintain the control, which I strongly believe they won't be able to, the price of silver is going way higher, and the price of gold is also going way higher. Because you also have the BRICS nations, mainly led by China, who is hoarding massive amounts of physical precious metals, gold and silver, because they know that their currency is probably going to be the world currency here shortly, the world reserve currency, and it will be backed by gold and silver. So on the one hand, we owe China like trillions, and I almost wonder, did we make agreement with China to say, look, you know you ain't getting that back, right? Like, you know we ain't paying that, right? Yeah, we know. And they said, well, since you're not paying it back, and since you guys control the price of precious metals over in America, we want a fire sale. You got it. And thus we have the smashing of gold and silver. But at the same time, it makes it a fire sale for you and me. So keep stacking. All I can tell you, keep stacking. I am 100% in agreement with Greg Manarino. And, you know, when he wore his little tie and stuff today, I thought I was going to have to come on here and do a Bill O'Reilly and do it live. I'll do it live, Greg Manarino. Let's get on Skype and we'll do it live. But I'm not going to do it live. So that's my 2 cents. Go watch his video. I'm going to link to it. He shows you the charts. And again, I understand charts have meaning. But we also know that there's a certain group of people who control the charts through controlling the price of everything. But even they understand that they can't make it so blatantly obvious to the world that it's manipulated, because then their whole power structure goes down. They have to pretend there's these waves and charts. That way all the bozo mainstream media and the pundits, and you're going to see Jim, what's his name, Mad Money, Jim Cramer, coming on, and we saw the trend line, and we've got that, and I told you guys I wasn't feel comfortable. So it all makes sense, and it all seemed legit. There are market forces, and it's a free market. It is going to crash, and it is going to crash hard. Whether it's next week, next month, 5 months, 6 months, another year from now, I don't know, and I know Greg doesn't know, and he said it could be months out. But from what the charts are showing him, it's coming soon. And when I see the gas prices spiking, as he mentioned also, and I see Obama making an actual announcement that we're going into Syria, we're going to help the rebels, whether they like it or not, someone's behind on their agenda, right? Someone's a little behind, and it's time to speed up the process. So if we get into Syria and handle business real quick, and then Saudi Arabia is next, it's going to be happening soon. What I don't know is, will the market crash before the whole unrest hits Saudi Arabia or during that? It doesn't really matter. What matters is that you know these things are coming, and it's going to be coming soon. Whether that's 2 years from now, a month from now, 6 months, a year from now. Again, You know it's coming. The writing's on the wall. The $17 trillion deficit we have, it's not imaginary. It's the one thing they didn't hide that they can't fudge. It's really there. And in a matter of 4.5 years, basically a single presidential term, it has gone from $9 trillion to $17 trillion. Remember that example I gave you earlier? It took 200 years to go to $1 trillion in 1971. It only took 4.5 years to double and go from 9 trillion almost to 17 trillion. So it's almost doubled. This is not sustainable. The EU nations, they're doing the same thing. Everybody's printing bailouts, now bail-ins. Japan's getting ready to do a bail-in where they confiscate basically anyone who has above the FDIC type of insurance, whatever they call it over in Japan. You're going to get screwed. So anyone that was rich and not an elitist, you're not going to be rich. Not unless you took $250,000 of your money and spread it across multiple different banks and accounts and all that crap. And you got to be very careful with that if you happen to be one of those people who have that kind of money. Because you might go to the same bank and say, I want 5 separate accounts, totally different accounts. And they give them to you. And you put $250,000 on that one, $250,000 on that. And then when the day comes, uh-oh, bail-in time. Your money, they'll tell you, well, FDI insurance is for $250,000 per account, but you had 5 accounts with us in the same bank. And since it's the same bank, it actually doesn't apply. So out of those 5 accounts you had that had $250,000 in each, yeah, 4 of them are gone. And the 5th and final one you still have, and it is intact. That's how that could go down. Don't let that happen to you. And the chances of anybody who's watching this video right now being one of those types of millionaires is probably slim to none. Because they always think they've got it figured out. I knew I wore this shirt for a reason. I'm very successful. I'm a millionaire. I know what I'm doing. I'm not listening to this clown who's got a green screen behind him with this fake realist news crap. Who the hell does this guy think he is? Freaking moron. Who do I think I am? I think you might want to watch some of my videos and see some of the things I've talked about and see some of the things that have happened in this country that I've talked about before they've happened. And this will be another one. Along with gold and silver skyrocketing, that'll be another one. And people think that's crazy because it's lasted so long. They've been able to keep the prices down for so long. Have you saw the COMEX reports of how much gold is in the old JP Morgan vault for the COMEX? It is record-breaking low. And in one day, I just did the video a couple days ago. In one day, woke up the next day, and 28% of the gold that was in the vault had already been shipped out. A lot of people wanting their gold all of a sudden. And if it's those, in case you're wondering, the guys that know it all, the elite, they'll be the first ones to be pulling their gold and stuff out long before anybody else does. Everybody else is going to get a little pink slip that says, your allocated account wasn't quite allocated. We lent your gold out for massive interest. We made profit. Oh, great profit, by the way. But we went ahead and entered your allocated account, even though we told you we didn't have a key to it and you were the only one with the key. And we lent out your gold, and they were supposed to give it back. And I just got off the phone with them, and you're going to laugh your butt off when I tell you this. Man, they said they don't have it. They said they don't have it. So what we're going to do today is we're not going to give you the gold because they don't have it and we don't have it. But the price of gold today is whatever. We're going to give you that money today. And we'll give you a tiny little bonus on top of that. Maybe a couple % on top of what today's market price is. And you're going to say, well, I paid a lot more for today's price for that gold when I got it. And you were just supposed to be storing it safely for me. I don't want today's price because I can't even get gold anywhere. I thought I was lucky because I had it in my allocated account. And you're telling me you don't have it. Yeah, but we'll settle out of court right now for today's price. Or you could sue us in 5 years and see what happens. I try to warn people not to do that. If you have the gold and silver at your house in a safe in your possession, you will never, ever, ever have to deal with this when it comes. And it has already started to happen. There's been multiple cases of people trying to get their gold and finding out the allocated gold they thought they had is not there or was finally put back. And when they looked at the serial numbers of the bars, they were not the serial numbers that you had put in there or that they had put in there. So that means it was lent. They got it back, melted some facility, melted it down. Here's a new gold bar. The bank bought it back and put it back in your account. Hey, the gold's back there. Why has it got a different serial number? I don't know. Because they lent it out and figured you've been leaving it there. No one ever comes and gets their gold. We'll just lend it out for a short period of time, and then we'll pull it back in without anyone knowing any better, and then we'll put it back. And they've been doing this for years and years and years and years, and no one's known any better. Now all of a sudden there's a little spike in demand for people to get their hands back on their gold, and they're getting a little nervous. So they're going to get these bullion banks or wherever they have it stored at, allocated account, which means I keep using that word, it just means it is an account that can't be touched by anybody but you. And somehow they've been touching it and taking what's in there out of there. So I'm done talking now. Totally on the same page as Greg Manarino, my brother from another mother. Watch his video, see what he has to say. Take care.